Right, this is a walking talking mock in a walkthrough for the English Literature Unit 1 higher tier paper for Edexcel English Literature. This is the paper which has Animal Farm and Of Mice and Men on it, and it's worth 50% of your English Literature GCSE. Today I'm going to be talking you through how to attempt this paper, and I'm going to give you some very clear guidance on the timings for each question. When you do your exam, you need to try and stick to those timings. And if you do run out of time in section A, you do need to move on to part B so that you are able to maximise your marks for this paper. So the paper itself is 1 hour 45 minutes long. You need to spend 1 hour on part A, Animal Farm, and 45 minutes on part B, the Of Mice and Men essay question. In the first few minutes, what I need to do is find my questions and underline and highlight the keywords for each of the reading questions, read the extract that's printed, and highlight as many relevant words or short phrases as possible that will help me to answer questions A and B. The only thing I'll write in those first 5 minutes is a plan. So this is the question for part A. In the extract, what do you discover about the character Squealer? The extract which we are using today is this one taken from chapter 6. I'm just going to scroll down because you'll be able to pause it and see which section I'm talking about. Okay. So the question which we're thinking about again, A, in the extract, what do you discover about the character Squealer? Now this question needs me to infer and deduce information, use quotes to back up what I say, and consider the reader response. I don't need to use specific language terminology, as the examiner is interested in my inferences about a key character. Having said that, it doesn't hurt to still identify the language terminology and the language techniques used, just because it's what you'll be doing through the rest of the paper anyway. So in this case, I'm having to write about how Squealer is portrayed in the extract from question 6. In total, the question is worth 8 marks. I'm going to spend 10 minutes completing this, and I should be able to get a band 5. I only need to read this extract for the answer. I need to have a really clear focus on characterisation, zooming in on single words that Orwell has used and explaining how that affects the reader's opinion of Squealer. Where possible, I should try to group similar words together which form my impression of Squealer. During my reading time, I've already picked out at least 3 quotes that I could use to help me to answer this question. What I do now is decide which ones are the most useful to me and write question 1A in the margin of the answer booklet. So this is how I'm going to write. Orwell presents Squealer as a conniving character through the quote, who happened to be passing at this moment, attended by 2 or 3 dogs, was able to put the whole matter in its proper perspective. The fact that he happened to be passing shows his mistrust in the other animals, as he keeps a watchful eye on them. Furthermore, the fact we are told he was accompanied by 2 or 3 dogs shows how he implicitly manipulates the other animals into adopting his perspective, the proper one. So what I've done there, I've used a longer quotation, then I've embedded the smaller quotations into my analysis of the larger quotation. Within my answer, I need to show the examiner that I clearly understand the question by using phrases such as Orwell presents, this creates the impression that, this implies, and furthermore. I'm aiming to write 3 paragraphs like that in my answer. So now spend 5 minutes writing your own thorough perceptive analysis about how Squealer was presented in that extract. To do that, I'll just show you the extract again, so you can pause it. Okay. What do you discover about the character Squealer? So your 15 minutes is up for the first part. Now it's time to move on to section A, part B. If you haven't finished, you should leave a space and then write question 1B in the margin. Question 1B tests some of the same skills, but this time I have to refer to specific language choices that Orwell has used to show a character, relationship or theme. This is why this question is worth 12 marks, and also why I need to spend longer on this question than I did on question 1A. So when I was reading in my 5 minutes at the start, I should have highlighted 3 or 4 quotes linked to trust in my reading time. So now I need to try and use the correct language terms to show a perceptive response. Look back at your quotes now and try to identify the techniques used. If you don't know the correct term, describe the language used or say lexis, L-E-X-I-S. For instance, you could say the use of argumentative language or the lexis to pick out those keywords. So for this question, I will need 3 points about how language is used to show trust. I'll introduce my first point like this, ensuring that I refer to the key question words in my response, which here are trust, presented, language, and Orwell as the writer. So, in the extract, Boxer's language choices of Napoleon is always right exemplifies his trust in the pigs and their actions. The qualifier always indicates that there is no exception, and the fact that he passed it off suggests he does not want to mistrust his leader, and his maxim creates the impression to the other animals that they should not either. Again, what I'm trying to do here is to show that I can use a longer quotation, pick out the language technique used. In this case, I've got a qualifier, and then I've got those short embedded quotes again. Then I would move on to my next point. To structure my ideas clearly, I'll use connectives such as later on, furthermore, or conversely. I'll start that like this. Furthermore, Squealer's use of rhetorical questions in the extract are used to create trust between the pig and the other animals. I would now spend 5 minutes continuing that analysis about the language used in that part of the novel. So now your 30 minutes is up because you spent 5 minutes planning, 10 minutes writing part A and 15 minutes on part B. So you're now halfway through section A. Now it's time to move on to question 1C. If you haven't finished, leave a space and then write 1C in the margin. So in this question, I need to show the examiner that I understand key themes in the text and that I can identify another key part of the plot where a theme, already shown in the extract, is apparent in one. It's key that it's one other extract. Like that of Mice and Men question on the language paper, this should be no longer than 2 sides from the novella, and it should allow me to explore the theme in detail. I should spend approximately 30 minutes on this question, as it is worth a total of 19 marks, including 3 for spelling, punctuation and grammar. For this exam paper, I've been asked to explore the significance of propaganda and language in one other part of the text, avoiding chapter 6 where we got the extract from. There are several key moments that I could choose. A useful way to think about structuring your response or to be planning and thinking about it is to realise that the word significance here just means importance. So we can use the CRISP acronym here. So how does this thing, in this case language and propaganda, affect characters, relationships, ideas, structure and plot? That should help you to try and get lots of good points to say about the use of propaganda and language within the extract which you choose. So, what I would choose to look at for this one is the significance of language and propaganda in chapter 7, where Snowball becomes the scapegoat of Animal Farm. I'll introduce my response like this so the examiner knows the key moment I have chosen. They do not need page references. I will have underlined key quotes which I will use to highlight the theme in my response as follows. So, these are the quotes which I think are the best ones from the extract that I've chosen. Now, moving on, I start my answer like this. Language and propaganda is also significant in chapter 7 when Snowball becomes the scapegoat for all that goes wrong at Animal Farm. That's all I need to say to contextualise where I've taken my extract from. So, at the start, Squealer manipulates the animals into believing that Snowball is a traitor through his clever use of language. Comrades, cried Squealer, making little nervous skips. The most terrible thing has been discovered. The audience can see that this is for his and the other pigs' own benefits. However, the use of the term comrades leads the animals into believing they are united, and the phrase most terrible indicates to the animals that Squealer is also distressed by this revelation. When he senses their doubt, Squealer continues by stating, so now, as you'll be getting used to, what I'd like you to do is to use these quotes and spend 15 minutes finishing off my analysis. Okay? Right then, so that would be an hour finished. Now it's time to move on to part B, as this section, part B, is worth 47 marks from this paper. It's important that you do well on it. So for this question, I have the choice of 2 characters, themes or ideas to explore. I need to select the question I can explore in the most detail using my knowledge of the whole novella. In this case, I've chosen to explore the significance of Candy's treatment by the men at the ranch, as I feel that I can discuss this at length and make relevant links to context throughout my essay-style response. I'm able to use as many different sections of the text as I want to in this question too, which does enable me to show off my understanding. Because here you get 24 marks for context, it's really important that you choose a question which you can say real things about context for, not just huge generalizations. If you were to choose the concept of friendship, you might find yourself writing things like people didn't have friends during the 1920s, people hated each other, and that just isn't true. Okay, so sometimes it's better to go with a character as long as there's something useful that you can say about context. So for this question, I need to show the examiner that I can refer to the text throughout to show that I fully understand the character, theme or idea, and that I can link this really explicitly to genuine, specific context. Context means the situation the characters are in, both in the text and in society at that time, 1920s and 30s America. I don't need to refer explicitly to language techniques, but I still might do, but there are no specific marks available for doing so. Before I start writing, I need to consider 2 to 3 key parts which I can use in my response, which show Candy's treatment by the other men at the ranch. What I'm going to go for is section 2, when we first meet Candy, section 3, when Candy's dog is killed, and section 4, where Candy wants to be a part of George and Nelly's dream. As this is an essay-style response, I don't have to stick to the piece structure, but I do need to avoid retelling the plot. A useful structure to use is PEEL, point, evidence, explanation, link to context. The examiner wants to see short, selected quotes and integrated contextual references. Again, while I'm planning, the acronym CRISP might be of use to me here. How is Candy's treatment important because of its impact on characters, relationships, ideas, structure and plot? And of course you have to bring in that context too. I must not make generalisations about context such as old people were treated badly in the 1930s. So to do that, I'm going to write like this, and I'm not going to read this to you. Moving on from there, what I'm going to go on to is to explore the treatment of Candy's possessions, so his dog, in section 3. I can go into that in a real great detail because the death of his dog is significant to our understanding of Candy, and it foreshadows other events later on in the novella. Other points to make are, for instance, in section 2, when we first meet Candy, useful things to say would be how Candy affects how the reader perceives other characters. So Candy is the first one to tell us negative things about Curly's wife, so that then when we meet Curly's wife, we're automatically prejudiced against her, and so we see the fact that she wears red as her being a tart, when actually there's nothing that she does within this story which tells us that she is a tart. It's Curly that sleeps around and goes to the brothels, not Curly's wife. So Candy is there used as a tool by the writer in order to prejudice us against the other characters. So anyway, I would link my point about Candy's possessions like this. I would say, later in the novella we explicitly see the mistreatment of Candy when his beloved dog is killed. So if I were you, I would spend 15 minutes carrying on with that point, remembering that lots of marks are awarded for textual evidence, and many marks, more than half the marks for this question, are there for the contextual links which you can make. So you can follow on from here. Alternatively, have a go at writing your own essay about Candy, or swap out the name Candy for any other character in this novel, and you'll be able to get a fair few essay plans or model essays going. So what's left to do then? I've just spent about an hour and 40 minutes working on this exam paper. If I've still got some time left, I can go back to the beginning of the paper to read through my answers, particularly the ones which carry spag marks. So that's question C in Animal Farm, and your essay which you've just written for Of Mice and Men. If I didn't finish question 1C in Animal Farm, I'm going to try and finish that first because it's worth the most marks in section A. So hopefully that's given you an idea about how to do well in the English Literature Unit 1 exam. Any kind of preparation which you do, it doesn't need to be full essays, it can just be essay plans. Anything like that is going to really help you in your run up to the exams. Okay, thank you very much. Good luck.